They've been there from the very early days, child actors, flickering on a screen in shades of gray and black, getting audiences to laugh and even to cry. Kids, children, they're the pliable ones from which fantasies are spun. Film fantasies, describing their world and ours. Hollywood. For more than 60 years, home of movie studios. Factory Town, USA. And the product, miles upon miles of celluloid. Celluloid that told stories to excite, to enthrall, and to entertain a nation and a world. In the process, children were turned into stars, beacons for others to follow.
Jump a lap again. Jump a hop, jump a lap step, jump a hop, jump a lap step.
Here we have the most beautiful kids in the world. They all have a goal.
Good. We're gonna do it 6 times.
They want to dance, they want to sing, they want to act, they want to be in show business.
Now look, even though you're in the classroom, you still conduct yourself like you're on stage, okay? So what does that mean?
Evan Richards just closed down on Broadway as David Copperfield.
You have fun. If you have fun and enjoy what you're doing, you're automatically going to smile, aren't you? Ready? Go!
Hilda Haas will be doing the Goldie Hawn special.
Smile!
We have the Jackson brothers in there. They just finished working on Annie. So these kids are working at what they love to do. The question is always, will my child make it? And my remark to the parents is, it's probably a chance in 1,000, a chance in 1,000,000 that your child's going to even do something in the business. And it's the old saying, being at the right place at the right time.
At the right place and the right time, early filmmakers discovered a public willing to pay hard-earned nickels and dimes to watch the fascinating movement of figures on a screen. Men and women. And occasionally, children. As often as not, such early films as The Keystone Cops were made entirely without children. When children were used, little demand was made of them. They seemed more like props than performers. Mary Pickford was 19 when she made New York Hat. It was a role she would enact repeatedly, an innocent wronged. Oddly enough, for more than 2 decades, audiences flocked to see films in which she primarily played roles of adolescents who didn't age. To an adoring American public, Mary Pickford would be a child forever, and the world of childhood she portrayed, box office magic. Mary became one of Hollywood's wealthiest actresses, as an adult playing a child. For years, Charlie Chaplin convulsed moviegoers with his brilliance. His little tramp, The Man Who Didn't Belong, spoke a universal language to the millions of city poor who now flock to see films as their main source of entertainment. In 1920, when Chaplin wanted to show the anguish of childhood, he dared to gamble. He was the first to select an actual child to enact a leading dramatic role. In the process, he created a prototype for future filmmakers, The Child as Waif. The film was The Kid, the child, Jackie Coogan.
The impact of The Kid with Chaplin was tremendous because it was the first time that a child was featured, and it changed my life immensely because It established me overnight. The second picture that I did was Peck's Bad Boy, and it was a fitting picture because it was very, very American and very small townish. When they released Peck's Bad Boy, it bore out the ideas and thoughts that my father had on how to promote a child, because it was a terrific hit, although the picture only cost $30,000 to make. Following Peck's Bad Boy, my dad decided that the public wanted to see a child in dire straits, an abandoned waif, an orphan. They were very simple stories in which we did 70% comedy. And 30% pathos. Always we had one big, gut-wrenching crying scene that was the payoff in the picture. It worked very well for us because people wanted to have their three handkerchief pictures in those days. Now we're really rolling. In 1922, I was the #1 box office in the world. And the fame and the adoration that the public bestowed on me was rather frightening. At this time, I was earning, just from motion pictures, about $500,000 a year. And I had innumerable outside interests, endorsements of product and food and clothing, so that I was earning about $1 million a year, all told.
Jackie Coogan's waif hungered for a family, for a home. It was a hunger audiences everywhere seemed to share. Producers, determined to cash in, rushed to meet the need by turning out film after film featuring children. In the process, a new child star was made, Baby Peggy.
I started in films when I was 20 months old, and these films were two reel comedies in which I did spoofs and satires. In all of these films, the child was always a foundling or orphaned, or the child of divorced parents, always seeking happiness, always trying to find someone to love her, or trying to put back the adult world that had come apart. I've thought often about why the audiences would be so responsive to the idea of the lost, seeking child. I think it's because, to a great extent, we're an immigrant nation. We are very unsure of our identities, and maybe we do want to be taken in and told that we really are home. This was carried over into the first feature film that I did for Saul Lesser. And in Captain January, we had the orphan child washed up and raised by the old captain. Yet, of course, he couldn't do well enough by her financially, so when they found her real relatives, he nobly gave her over to the relatives so that she would have a better chance in life. She did not understand this, she felt rejected, but in the end, as usual, it always ended up that the rich parents took him in as well. Then there were the bonanza years, the personal appearance tours, the cars, the chauffeurs, the jewelry firm that had me pose with $1 million worth of jewelry on my arm, the dolls that were made in my image, the dresses, everything, the baby Peggy, everything. And then I found myself at the National Convention, the Democratic Party in 1924, as the mascot. And the man that I found myself standing next to was Franklin Delano Roosevelt. So at 10 I retired, having made for my family between films and vaudeville $2 million that I'm sure of, and another $1 million that I'm not quite certain of.
By the middle of the 1920s, the prospect of sudden fortunes to be made from motion pictures had turned a sun-bleached suburb of Los Angeles, California, into a boom town. And a new kind of gold rush was taking place. If it could happen to this child, why not to yours? Children were turned into family breadwinners. One of the many thousands of youngsters brought to Hollywood, this perky kid was eventually accepted for a series of comedy shorts featuring children. In fact, he took on the name of the character he played, Mickey Maguire. Later, this talented fellow took another name, Mickey Rooney. Mickey had been rejected by the most successful of the shorts starring children, the Our Gang comedies, or Little Rascals, as they were later called, produced by Hal Roach. In 22 years, the Little Rascals provided parts for 173 different children. Now, out of these, only 41 were placed under contract. Yet over 140,000 children tried out. Over the years, the cast of Our Gang changed.
Come on, Alfalfa!
Sound was added, but the popularity of the comedies remained undiminished.
I guess the main thing about the kids and the fact that we were so, quote, lovable or unlovable or whatever was maybe the fact that we were natural, and the studio and the writers and the directors let us be natural. And we built our own clubhouse, built our own toys and stuff like that. And it was, the kids of those days could identify with that because that's what they had to do. And of course, times got better. And as times got better, the money became more available for the parents to buy the kids toys and do this and do that. They wanted a clubhouse, they go out and buy them a ready-made clubhouse. And they just didn't have to do the things. They didn't have to scrounge around like the kids back in the 20s and the 30s and the early 40s did. And I think it stuck. It's a time past. It will never be recovered, thank goodness. And I think it'll live forever. Hey, good putt. I'll see you on the next tee.
She was cute, perhaps the most adorable child star ever. Even so, she too was rejected by Our Gang. But she soon became a regular on another series of comedies featuring children. By the time she was 7, this girl would be the #1 box office attraction in America.
Okay. All ready? Camera.
Her name was Shirley Temple.
We thought that love was over, that we were really blue. I said that we love you, that we begin anew. And you can all believe me, we sure intended to, but we just couldn't say goodbye. The cherubim, the sofa, they both sat down and cried. The curtain started waiting for me to come inside. but we just couldn't say goodbye. Everybody wants to know who's that great big handsome Romeo. I'm presenting you right now. Daddy, take a bow.
When Shirley sang and danced with James Dunn in Stand Up and Cheer, a nation reeling from the Depression took heart. A new decade called for a new image and the child to express it. This was no pathetic orphan of the storm. This was a feisty kid who exuded courage, self-confidence, and determination. Her magic enabled her studio, 20th Century Fox, to emerge solvent from the worst years of the Depression. For 4 years in a row, Shirley Temple was #1 at the box office of the nation. The golden decade of the child star had arrived.
Hello, this is Jody in Sheila Manning's office. I've got a breakdown for you. We're looking for a couple of kids for a commercial, and I need an 8 to 10-year-old little boy.
Come up close. You should be right next to the chairs, you guys, okay? And you're cleaning the house, right? It's her birthday. Gummer, ready? Commercials are no longer the stepchild of the industry. In fact, they're becoming the training ground, particularly for children.
It's your birthday, so we're cleaning.
Jodie Foster did commercials. Christy McNichol did a ton of commercials. Ricky Schroeder was seen in a series of Kodak commercials. That's how he got the champ. You don't need that. You don't need that. There's one there and one there, okay? Warm and wonderful, because otherwise it's too harsh. Okay, go. Basically, what we look for in a child is intelligence. An ability to go with what happens. What's burning?
We made dinner too.
Bo, cheat to camera when you do your We Made Dinner Too, okay? The kids that come in and lock themselves into one reading, generally if the director says, okay, that's nice, but this time can you do it this way, can't.
My kid's cleaning?
It's your birthday, so we're cleaning.
The need for children varies. One year we'll need freckle-faced redheads, preferably with one tooth missing and this one on the left, because they're very particular. Other times we'll need blondes. Ethnic types are occasionally in.
Hi, my name is Andrew Held.
And it's okay to be ethnic as long as you can't tell which F.
Clearly it shines. It's specially formulated for wood. Watch.
These kids are here basically for one reason, to make money. These children can make, on one day's work, $35,000. $35,000 is a lot of money.
To make money, you had to spend it. One way, preparing for the big break. Being prepared was even more important in the 30s, when there were no commercials to showcase a fresh talent. For that, Ethel Meglin's dance school became an important entryway to fame and fortune. It was here a scout spied Shirley Temple hiding under a piano. And at Ethel Meglin's, young Frances Gumm was first discovered. Later, her name became Judy Garland. A lot of hard-earned dollars spent in the hope of attaining stardom for a family's darling. A lot of darlings and a lot of families praying for sudden fame and fortune and a studio contract.
Well, having spent my adult life in the motion picture business, helping to make pictures, really 60 years of it, at the beginning, all the people in the business discovered some great advantages in making pictures for children. How the big studios had it, nobody knows, but they had the instinct for finding gold in the mines, and they had the instinct of knowing who to get to dig the gold out of the mines. And the gold I'm talking about are children. Children who laughed, children who cried, children who tore your heart out, but you went out of the theater feeling so good, having had a good cry, because of a scene with a child.
What are you trying to do? Now get on out of here and get home.
Jackie Cooper made them cry.
Scooter!
He always made them cry.
Jackie Cooper's success in film after film helped to make the 30s the decade of the child star. Audiences of all ages were now willing to see the world through the eyes of children, to share their fears and their tears.
You hadn't ought to done that, Scooter. You might have got killed.
Lucky careful was.
If I was as anxious as you to get rid of somebody, I'd buy him a ticket to Chicago and send him there. Why don't you? Well, why don't you?
Because they put you in an orphan asylum, that's why.
Orphan asylum? I ain't no orphan.
Well, I mean, you see...
Orphan? Has something happened to my dad?
Oh, listen, Scooter,
There must have, because today's my birthday and he'd be here.
Well, he couldn't, you see, Well...
Why did you tell me that they were going to put me in an orphan asylum?
Well, I was only...
You mean...
Yeah.
You mean he ain't here anymore? You mean he's... Daddy.
And this went on with Paramount, with Warner Brothers, where they had people like Sybil Jason. Other studios had Cora Sue Collins. Others had Marsha May Jones. And they built a whole stable of children.
Freddie Bartholomew. Audiences agreed he did speak differently. The success of this young English actor's film showed they liked the difference.
There he goes, oh, there he goes, all dressed up in his pretty clothes, away in it, away in his feet, dances, dances, and going in street. Hey, Poisey, where'd you get the ice wagon? I'd like to get the icy. Give us a little ride, will you, Bub? I'm sorry, no. Oh, scared I'll get it dirty? No, but I'd rather ride it myself. Oh,
Hey, English, when'd you get back from dear old London?
I'm not English. I'm an American.
Now, where'd you get that kind of gab?
My father was English, if it's any of your affair. Ooh, does your mother know you're out? Don't you dare talk about my mother. Mama said, Mama said, Mama said. Go on, Dick. Strike him on the snoot.
In the same film, Mickey Rooney.
Mickey Rooney, he could do anything at the drop of a hat when he was a child. Anything he wanted the audience to do, he could make them do.
Oh, why couldn't that copper leave us alone? We had him licked.
Thanks terribly for coming to my rescue, Dick.
Oh, Nix, that makes us even for me giving you the bumps.
They didn't even scratch it.
Gee, Runkers, where'd you swipe that?
The Earth gave it to me. Isn't it magnificent?
It's a Lollapalooza.
Lollapalooza, an apt description of Mickey himself, who went on to become one of his studio's major assets. In the 30s, family films were box office films. It was accepted that a family that stuck together could pull through any hardship. Film after film proved this point. Among the most successful of these, the Andy Hardy films with Mickey Rooney, whose problems could always be solved within the family.
There was the gold mine I'm talking about, and the miners who knew what the M-I-N-E-R-S I'm talking about. The Louis B. Mayers and the Adolph Zuckers and the Harry Cohns and the Jack Warners. All these men, they had no background for it, but by God, Sam Goldwyn, my gosh, when he did a picture called These Three, he touched on a subject that was very, very taboo, but he got Benita Granville. He got Marsha May Jones. Money in the box office. Children, gold, platinum. The miners with their pickaxes.
This MGM short, made in 1936, introduced two child performers, Deanna Durbin and Judy Garland, in their first and only film together. Deanna went off to a rival studio. Judy remained to make some of the most popular films of the decade. When Judy was teamed with Mickey Rooney, a combination was formed that audiences couldn't get enough of. possibly the 30s most memorable film featuring a child, The Wizard of Oz. But there were others. Great films for young and old, starring a band of youngsters who appeared in one hit after another.
I began acting when I was 11 months old, and my specialty seemed to be playing a sincere child who reconciled estranged couples or brought happiness to adults. I think that was a role that was central to many of our careers. It was an age of innocence. People looked to the films and the children in them for escape. We were embroiled at that time, of course, in the grim reality of the Depression, so escape was the fashion. I think two things changed that. The first was World War II, with so much reality, not all of it nice. The second was the very rapid explosion of the communications media, so that suddenly you had a lot of reality that was very unpleasant, that was touching almost everyone in this country, brought into the immediate attention in the living rooms, in many cases, of the people who'd been used to fantasy. And all of a sudden, the old pictures, the old plots, the old beliefs didn't work anymore. People didn't have the same things to believe in. They couldn't accept any longer the premise, even as a fantasy, that a child could solve the world's problems by dancing on the president's desk. That wasn't good enough. So I think the fantasy that enabled the era of the child star to exist gave way to an era of reality in which the child performer, if indeed he was or she was to exist at all, did so within the framework of a larger context, a different kind of story, in which they were part of the mosaic, but certainly not the whole picture.
One sign of the change that was to come. Benita Granville and Marcia May Jones in These Three.
Even though the role in These Three was the beginning of the type of evil girl that they later showed on the screen, that part ended up with a slap across the face, severe punishment, and then I guess you could say all was well with the world. In the following years, especially during the war and after the war, when the family life kind of disintegrated, the mother and father both had to work, or the father was off at war and the children were left alone, the child changed. And I think our children's roles in pictures changed with the times. There became a certain lack of respect for parents. And in the end of a film, just punishing a child didn't always solve the problem.
The passing of innocence and the beginning of a sad awakening. His mother and his soon-to-be stepfather. Suddenly, the changings led to suits first from his parents and then his grandparents, who demanded to share the fortune he had made. Edith Fellows was brought to Hollywood when she was 4 by a grandmother. Versatile, a fine actress and singer, she would become one of Columbia Pictures' outstanding child stars. She, too, was to be scarred by a lawsuit.
My grandmother was a hard worker. In fact, all the credit really goes to her because she's the one that really did it all. She was a very strong woman, very determined. And I remember my grandmother telling me about that somewhere she thought I had a mother, but she wasn't sure where she was. And then after I had gotten my first break, all of a sudden there's a knock at the door one day, and the door opens and my grandmother introduces me to my mother. It was quite a shock. And then, unfortunately, it took a terrible turn. My mother decided she wanted to get me from my grandmother, so she accused her of kidnapping me. Well, that's a terrible offense. That's death. I mean, that could be the electric chair for kidnapping. So here was this horrendous situation that my poor grandmother and myself had to face.
The so-called bubble finally broke in 1935 when I attained the age of 21. And I found out that under the laws of the United States that a child wasn't entitled to any of his earnings. We were still operating under the old apprentice law that was handed down to us from England. And it was kind of a shock because I thought I was a rich man, and I found out that I didn't have a cent. And then followed a lawsuit which established the Coogan Law that's now is being upheld in about 35 of our states. It should be in all 50 of them, but I hope in the future it will be, because there's nobody in the world to protect your child. And if the state doesn't step in, they're in big trouble. Well, that's with anybody, because greed is an overpowering sin that is committed against children every day.
Now, well, now I'm working. I'm enjoying life. I do what I want. It's for me, no one else. And I'm contented. And as far as regretting my past work, and would I do it again, well, I really don't know. But it was interesting. It was interesting.
An age ending, a period in the growing up of America. A time when stories seen through the eyes of children, creating fantasies for audiences of all ages, it was coming to a close. But the child stars who had made it possible, they had left their mark, one that later generations would not forget.
Shirley Temple, beautiful, beautiful.
I really did like Shirley Temple.
I don't think anyone could compare with Shirley Temple and her acting ability and her decency in the movies.
I used to love Shirley Temple, but now I love Brooke Shields.
I remember, of course, our game comedies.
Mickey Rooney was good.
I love Margaret O'Brien.
I like the little black boy.
Gary Coleman.
He is really one super kid.
Elizabeth Taylor, I think.
I like Jodie Foster. My favorite actor was Shirley Temple because she looks very nice and lovely with her curls.
No curls for this actress, Margaret O'Brien, who became a symbol for all children in a time of war. Again, the child was seen as a waif, a victim. But now the real world of childhood was larger, the dangers immense. Margaret O'Brien with Robert Young in Journey for Margaret.
Is it a airplane?
No.
I don't like airplanes. Will it go away?
Oh, I think it's one of our planes, honey, sent to chase the Germans away.
Is it dropping bombs now?
No, it's going away.
Now?
Count with me, Margaret. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Listen. See? See, it's going away now. Now we can get some sleep.
Tuck me in.
In the 1940s, new child actors caught audiences' fancy. One of them, Peggy Ann Garner in Jane Eyre. The film had another young newcomer in a minor role. Her name was Elizabeth Taylor. Now audiences demanded a new realism, and childhood became a time to be outgrown. The home, a place to leave. Peggy Ann Garner and James Dunn in A Tree Grows in Brooklyn.
I might be going to be a writer. I've just about decided. Don't joke, Papa. I'm serious.
All right, baby.
She said, Miss McDowall, I mean. She said maybe I could be. She said I have imagination. She said I'd have to work hard. She said imagination wasn't any good if you were just a pipe dreamer about it. He didn't help anybody that way.
I see. A pipe dreamer.
I'm not putting it good like she did. I wish you could have heard her. She was wonderful. And she said lots more. I've been trying to remember. She said even if you have imagination, it's better to write about the things you know about and the way things are.
Being under contract to a studio in those years was one of the most exciting experiences of my life. It was like a family. It was not a studio. It was not a production thing. It was fun. It was fun to go there. We had our own police department and hospital. I had my own tutor. Obviously, when you're a child of 4 or 5, which is basically about the time I started, a child doesn't select or pick at that age what they're going to do. So there must be a parent, obviously, who is putting the child in the business, so to speak, which is what happened in my case, my mother. And in the case of, I think, most child stars, it's that way. But then when the time comes, after you outgrow the so-called child star image, and you decide that you want to continue in the business, that's strictly your own decision.
People ask me, they say, well, what'd you quit movies for? And I told them, I said, they quit paying me, which is a pretty good reason. In the child acting business, there is a thing called transition. It sometimes can be an ugly word. What it simply means is that can a child star, after he grows up, go and make the transition into acting in adolescent parts or young adult parts or something like that and continue his career. And there have been precious few that have been able to bring that off.
The feeling was that once I was an adult, once I was even a teenager, I wasn't the same person. And the audience didn't identify with me, and my parents didn't identify with me, and it's almost as though you had ceased to be alive. I had the feeling that I was a senior citizen at 15. And you would walk up to people and they say, oh, you used to be so darling. Whatever happened to you? It's as though you had been terribly injured in an accident or something. And it not only happened to me, it happened to so many of the children. They were adorable, they were wanted, they were loved one day, and almost the very next day, just when they were becoming human beings, in the sense full adult human beings, they were told, you're finished.
I tried. After the gang, I left the gang. We moved back to Texas because I wanted to. And after I finished school and did a little thing in the Air Force, I decided, well, maybe I'll go back and try the movies again. That's the only thing I knew how to do. I didn't have any formal training. I didn't go to college. So I hitchhiked, I think, if I remember correctly, back to Hollywood and arrived much like all of the aspiring young actors that come out here do, and starved to death for, gosh, I don't know how many months, and fried hamburgers and parked cars and, well, you know, the classic Hollywood story, trying to get work. And I said to myself, I said, you know, if you're going to make anything of yourself between now and the time that you're 75 years old, you better get started, because you ain't going to happen here.
I wasn't ready to be told I was finished at 18. I don't think any of us were ready for that. We wanted to be successful adults, and some of us wanted to choose perhaps other careers. But we weren't given a chance to choose. We were simply thrown away like used Dixie cups. We were told that we loved you as children, which was a fleeting image. We don't want to see you as adults. We don't want to even give you a chance to see what you can do as an adult actor.
There have been child actors who did make the successful transition. Among them, Elizabeth Taylor, Jackie Cooper, Peggy Ann Garner, Natalie Wood, and an English-born lad, Roddy McDowall.
So you're the new boy?
Yes, sir.
You're late.
Yes, sir.
What a dirty little sweep it is. Who are your people? Where are you from?
Kumrunda.
Kumrunda? Oh, a little genius from the coal pits. And they expect me to make a scholar of it. All right, come in. Your boots are muddy.
They were clean when I left home.
You'll address me as sir, or I'll put a stick about your back. Now sit down here.
Apparently, this young actor brought a certain seriousness and sensitivity that audiences appreciated. Attitudes appropriate in a time when the old sources of security were beginning to disappear. More and more, films dealt with the loneliness that could exist even within a family. For some children, companionship in films came not from people, but animals. For others, it could come from the fantasy of a Santa Claus who was suddenly very real.
It's awful big for a little girl like you. What could you possibly do with a house like this?
Live in it with my mother.
But you've got this...
Natalie Wood with Edmund Gwenn in Miracle on 34th Street.
I want a backyard with a great big tree to put a swing on and... I guess you can't get it, huh?
Oh, I didn't say that. No. Well, it's a tall order. But I'll do my best. May I keep this picture?
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Good night, sir.
Good night, Mr. Crinkle.
Every decade has its own view of childhood. In recent years, however, the difference between child and adult has blurred. The cynical behavior of one becomes the guide to conduct for the other.
There you go.
Tatum O'Neill in Paper Moon.
Lady, you made a mistake.
Huh? I give you $4.75.
But I give you a $20 bill.
You give me a $5 and I give you $4.75.
It's a $20 bill.
What's all the turmoil? What's going on here?
This little girl give me a $5 bill and I give her change.
I give her a $20 bill. I know I did. It was a birthday present for my Aunt Helen in Wichita, and she wrote "Happy Birthday, Addie" on the end of it. You just go look and see. That's it right there. That's my $20 bill I got from my Aunt Helen in Wichita.
Give the child her $20 bill, Miss Brownwell.
Yes, sir.
And give her a piece of candy, Miss Brownwell.
Yes, sir.
And pay attention to things, Miss Brownwell.
Yes, sir. Weird. Very weird. It's even weird for Tucson. And Tucson is the weird capital of the world.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
In increasingly sophisticated times, a more worldly child seems at home. Jodie Foster in a scene with Alfred Lutter.
Weird. You want to get high on Ripple?
What?
So do you want to get high on Ripple?
No, I can't. What about your folks?
My dad split 2 years ago. Mom turns tricks at the Ramada Inn from 3 on in the afternoon.
What if she came home?
She wouldn't even notice. I could have a troop of bare-assed Eagle Scouts in for the afternoon and she wouldn't even blink an eye. Why, is your mama hard-nosed?
No, she's a singer. Or a waitress, I guess.
Singing waitress. Weird.
In Pretty Baby, Brooke Shields gave even today's audiences a jolt.
This scene, what it is trying to do actually is to expose double standards in the world of adults. It described this ravishing little girl being offered to this bunch of old men, and what makes it even more shocking is the fact that she seems to look forward to it. For her, it's almost like graduation time. It's like she's at last going to become an adult. What I was trying to expose for this particularly provoking scene is, in a way, it is not entirely different from the process of education in general, which for me is essentially the apprenticeship of corruption. It is about, it is like any other rite of passage. It's about for me, essentially, it's about the loss of innocence. And also what I was trying to do, which I think is slightly different from what has been done many times, let's say in Shirley Temple films, where the character is a complete idealization of a child. I was trying to look at the world from the point of view of the little girl. This is her look at the adult. This is the way she deals with them.
For generations, adult filmgoers had their way of looking at child actors. They doted over them. Whatever their roles, these children were first and foremost seen as lovable, and audiences cared about them. Now these roles were changing. In film after film, it was accepted that children not only could be evil, they could be the very spawn of the devil. And so the questions are raised. The child actors of the future, what parts will they play? What roles should audiences demand?
I feel very strongly that motion pictures, for the past many years, for the past decade, have appealed to the common, the lowest possible denominator. I don't happen to approve of that. Films in the 30s and early 40s always had an uplifting quality about them.
I don't think we can ever return to the innocence of the 20s and 30s when children were just children. And society has collapsed morally and physically, so that it's absolutely impossible to make the things that were important then important now.
I think with today's tendency toward reality in films, that the children reflect that. I think we're looking toward a more accurate reflection of today's events. I think that the idealization, the time when children came out in little organdy pinafores and pink bows in the head, is gone. But it's gone in real life now, too. I don't think that we're building major child stars. I don't think there's a market for major child stars. I think television builds them and destroys them. You know, you're a star one day, you can't get a job the next day, you're suddenly 14 and awkward. I think that yesterday was great for yesterday. I also think that we're in a transition time now where, because children are in a transition time. I mean, when was the last time you saw a 10-year-old girl without a bra? In the 30s, they didn't know what one was.
My children cleaning? It's your birthday, so we're cleaning.
I love being a child actress. Ever since I was 3 or 4, I kept begging and pushing and, come on, I want to be an actress.
Perfect. Okay.
When I was 6 years old, they finally said, well, okay, you know, but if it affects your schoolwork or if it affects you as a person, you're out right away. And I've been in it ever since.
Outdoor shots, that type of thing. We want a good kind of headshot, show her range, okay? What are you comfortable in? Which one of these outfits?
Well, I kind of like this pink one. I think
okay, let's use that for the older kind of look.
All right. I don't think I'm affected, you know, I'm a normal person. Like I used to always say, you know, about when people are like, oh my God, there's a star, you know, I always say, hey, they put their pants on one leg at a time, just like we do, you know.
Okay. And then in terms of makeup, we'll go real light with the first one, with the white one. And then we'll just do your cheekbones a little bit of lip gloss, maybe a little tint on the nails, okay? Do you use mascara?
I think what influenced me to be an actress was, of course, all those wonderful actresses in the movies, and like Katharine Hepburn and Bette Davis, and of course Jane Fonda. I love her. I think she has more guts than anything. And those ladies have more charisma, more class to me. And I've always wanted to be that way.
At one time, girls were prizes. They were a doll, daddy's little girl, never grow up. And that image has changed because young girls' roles have changed. They're actually an effective force in the marketplace.
Facts of Life last season.
They are buying things. They are going out and picking their own clothes.
You've been doing this a while, right?
About 10 years.
Good. Chin down a little bit. Good.
We talk about 40, 50 years ago. Most of the kids were brought up to be part of the atmosphere. They were dressed up more like a centerpiece, something that could be displayed proudly. The kid didn't have any influence. The kid didn't have an opinion.
How old were you when you started?
I was 6 and a half.
Yeah? How old will you be when you quit?
An old lady.
An old lady. That's the best way to go.
I'm sure everyone is aware of the fear all parents have with children in this business as they get older of the possible exploitation.
Good. Not too cutesy pie. I don't want a cheesecake type of thing, okay? That's
as
good.
far
Chin
as
down a little
Julie
bit.
doing a nude scene or anything like that, it's not a matter of us letting her do it at her age now. She wouldn't do it. We have raised her differently.
Sending you out on older stuff now? Chin down a little bit?
Well, kind of.
I know one time somebody asked her when she grew up what she would like to be noted for. And she said, I'll tell you one thing, I don't want to be known for my hair.
We're working on Facts of Life.
Oh, Facts of Life. That was my first sitcom experience.
Do you like sitcoms?
I really think that I will make it as an adult actress. Maybe not become a star or just keep working. That's just what I want to do, just keep working. Meet in front of a live audience and everything like that. It's really fun.
Acting can be fun. It can also be a tradition to be passed on.
Can I go?
I've seen it happen to the best. I've seen what happens to child stars and firsthand. So it'd be, what do you know? You're nothing but a girl. You got to be defensive. You got to clarify that. I'm a girl. My father was a child star. I think his father handled him well. His mother spent it faster. But some kids do like it.
All your time reading.
You learn by reading.
You'll learn by living, and living learns you how to survive.
I don't like it because there's a stigma on mothers. Mothers get a bad rap. Stage mother is like worse than anything. I mean, they are the pits. I don't like that. Anyway, that's what my pa learned me, you know, like,
Proud.
Okay, try that again.
You learn by living.
But I have to do it because I would not let anybody else do it with Keith.
Anyway, that's what my pa learned me.
Change.
Go back to
I
your
just hope that he can continue to do what he wants to do in it and get out of it what he can rather than just a pension check when he's 65. Like a lot of actors just become stars on a sidewalk and they really don't get much out of it except a lot of hurt.
My grandfather, he was a really good actor. He was natural, you know. He was a natural. He could do just about any part, and my goal is to be like him.
You got to do anything special in Chip?
Well, let's see. I ride a mini bike.
Have you ever practiced it?
No. Thursday I'll practice.
You're going to be in this business a long time, aren't you?
Yeah.
How long are you going to stay in?
Still I'm 67.
That's the same age as I am. Well, I hope you can make it.
So do I. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. We would like to get acquainted.
Times change, and so do the fantasies that reflect them. But the children waiting for the chance to amuse and entertain us, and sometimes make us cry, they're still around. Hollywood's children, then, now, and, it would seem, forever.
I firmly believe that as long as children can entertain and bring a warmth and a humanness into people, I think it's worth it.